You can learn how to make hard candy without corn syrup. It's a little tricky to do, even though it's only 3 ingredients, sometimes only 2. Here they are, but don't worry, I'll include a link below for more details. We will also go through some troubleshooting tips on how to prevent crystallization. This is a common occurrence that will happen, especially if you're not using corn syrup or glucose syrup or even honey. One thing to learn is to use 2 different stirring utensils, one for dissolving the sugar and one for putting in the flavoring if you're using it. You'll also need a pastry brush, some ice water, a second thing of ice water to dip your finger into in case you have an accident. Trust me, it will help a lot. Some sugar, and finally, some water. You can also use flavoring. I like to use peppermint oil, but any kind will work. The first thing you want is a 3-quart minimum heavy saucepan and pour in a 1.5 cups or 300 grams of sugar. After that, you're going to pour in some water. Now, if you're new to this, it actually benefits you to put in more than a 1/2 cup of water, which is 120 milliliters. I would suggest going up to a full cup, which is 240 milliliters. And that will just help you dissolve the sugar more. It'll slow down the cooking process, which will help prevent crystallization. I do want to go through this with you. When you are stirring this, make sure you use a different spatula or clean this really well when you go to add in your flavoring if you're using it. If you don't and you have one stray crystal of sugar on your spoon, you will crystallize your entire process. This is a tricky process to do, but it is doable. What I like to do is, with the heat off, is to stir this gently. Look for any kind of undissolved sugar, especially with the cheaper sugars. You might see bits that just pull them out. And then stir it gently until it is clear like this. Once it's clear or mostly clear, get your pastry brush. Take a little time, brush off the sides for any stray sugar crystals that might have come up while you were stirring. This is just another preventative of creating a mess. And then start boiling it. Medium-high heat. You want a gentle, slow boil. Once it starts boiling like this, you do not stir it at all. Failure to listen to this one simple direction will crystallize your sugar. While this is boiling like this, just keep an eye on it. If you see any sugar forming on the side, wipe it down with the pastry brush. It is now done. It has slowed in boiling. It's turning a nice golden amber color. I dropped some in a cold ice water and it instantly forms a rock. This is 310 degrees, about 154 Celsius. You want to remove it from the heat. I'm using induction, so I just turn it off and it instantly stops. And then add in your flavoring. Give it a gentle stir. Again, use a clean spoon, because if you don't and you hit sugar, it will crystallize. And immediately pour it into a heat-proof container. I'm using an 8x8, which is 20-centimeter pan, and I used parchment paper. Now, a lot of people have problems with this being ruined. Learning how to make candy is a very tricky process. I recommend when you're very first doing this, skip the flavoring. You'll learn a lot by just learning how to cook sugar and water. Don't be upset if it is ruined the first 12 times even. This is normal. Once we have it cooled a while, we're going to try to cut it. If you noticed, when I first tried to cut it, it was fluid and it went back. When you cut it just right, it will hold the shape. If you wait too long, it's going to get stuck like this. And if it did wait this long, you can actually heat this up a little bit in the microwave without it being in the metal pan, of course, and it will make it where you can do it again. Now let's try to break this. It should break pretty easily on the score lines, especially if you don't have any difficulties with your arms. But since I do, it's a little more tricky. But now you can see it's starting to snap really nicely. But I will show you the fun part and why they call this glass candy in just a second. It is really fun to hit. I will recommend if you do this at home, you want to cover it because if not, you will get shards of candy all over the house. And picking it up is actually, it feels like picking up glass sometimes and it can actually cut you a little bit. So keep that in mind. This stuff is so good. You'll want to put it on a cloth on top of a countertop and you give it a quick smack with the back of a spoon. Anything really works. And again, if you don't cover it, it will go flying everywhere. And that is it. It is hard candy without any corn syrup. Don't be afraid to try it out. It will fail sometimes on you. You might get crystallized mess. That happens. Visit us at jacksonsjob.com for more information, and happy baking.